In this video, I'm going to give you a full guide on how to remove all of your vices in your life as a young man. Most young men are completely stuck in their vices, in addictions, in bad habits, in repeating cycles that are ultimately hurting you and ruining your life, ruining your potential, ruining your chance to really turn your life into something. And you might not even know it. And this was me. For a lot of years, I struggled, but I've been able to figure out a lot of things. I've sought out mentors and teachers, and I've also learned from a lot of my mistakes and used my mistakes as my number one teacher. And from doing that, I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to earn a six-figure income running my own business and more. I've been able to invest over six figures. I'm in no debt. I live in Puerto Rico, from New Hampshire originally. And I've been able to learn how to connect with women and have women desire me, and also how to even be in healthy relationships, which is a whole other level of things. And all of those things I never believed that I could do. I never would have guessed that I'd be where I am today. And if you take this blueprint, if you take this guide that I'm about to give you, I know that you're going to be able to achieve success on your terms. That doesn't even need to look like what success means for me, but you're going to be able to take this and do so much with it. And if you apply it over time, it's going to change your life, where in just a couple short years, you're going to wake up and you're not even going to recognize your life. You're going to be able to command respect when you walk into a room. You're going to be able to create deals that you never thought were possible in business. You're going to have a new level of confidence and air about you. And I want that for you because I want you to feel free. Because I know what it's like to not feel free. I know what it's like to be stuck in all of those positions. And I want the best for you. And the only thing that I ask from you is that you hit subscribe and like this video. It helps the channel out a lot. And it also means that you're going to get new, valuable content just like this on so many other topics in the near future too. Okay, we're gonna get right into it. Number one, the first step is vision. The first step of how to release your vices, break bad habits, create space in your life to achieve success on your terms is you need to know where are you going. You need to have a compelling enough vision and direction that can move you forward. And I want to tell you a few things about vision. Number one is sometimes you need a mountain on the horizon, and it's not even necessarily about achieving that one thing. You might go for a year or 5 years in this direction. And from having that vision, it gives you enough of a drive, and it's compelling enough that you actually move forward, and that you don't just stay home smoking weed or drinking or hanging around the wrong friends or doom scrolling on social media or fill in the blank, whatever you're doing, watching porn, stuck in cycles of dependence in relationships, right? If you have a compelling enough vision, you have something that is worth moving towards. If you don't have something worth moving towards, you're not going to get out of the comfort zone. You're not going to get out of these cycles. So you need to claim something. Number two is care. And it's not about caring about yourself. You do not have to care about yourself, surprisingly, to remove all of your vices in your life. You have to care about others. You can't make it about you. For me, I was so depressed and lost for so many years. And what actually pulled me out of depression, being suicidal, really struggling with my mental health, what actually set me on the right track and turned my life around was caring about my younger siblings, caring enough about my family. Now, maybe you don't have siblings, or maybe you aren't really connected to your family for whatever reason. That's many people. You don't have to care about somebody that even is alive. You can care about your future children. When I was 21, That was the same age that my dad found out that he was going to be a dad to me. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and actually starting, like, I imagined myself with a baby in my hands, and I realized, wow, I am not ready for that. And in so many ways, I had so many experiences even by that point. I was running my own business. I had traveled to 18, 20 plus countries. I was living across the country. I had moved from New Hampshire all the way to California. I was living my dreams, and I imagined myself, looking in that mirror, I imagined myself with a baby, with my own children that I loved so much, and I could feel them with me. And I've felt them with me ever since that moment. And that's another driving point, another reason where it's like the stakes are higher. It's not just about me. It's about the people in the future that I'm going to provide and protect and be there for. And again, in the beginning, for me, it was like, I want to be a better role model. I want to be a better person for the people in my life, for my family, for my younger siblings, because I felt like I had let them down. So you have to care about others. And if you're just thinking about yourself, if you're just thinking about what's in it for me, I'm sorry, but for the vast majority of us, maybe some people can get away with that self-interest being enough, but for the vast majority of us, you have to care about others. Number 3 is you need to know how to replace. There can be no void. There can be no void. What I mean by that is that when you are reconstructing habits, you have to replace your habit with something. Most of these bad habits, you have to understand psychologically, are coping mechanisms, ways we've learned how to survive. Usually when we've been faced with extreme stress, we usually resort to negative habits or these things that we go to try to nourish us. It's actually totally normal. It's a human thing. It's a psychologically, like, your body is trying to meet its needs. Every action we take, we have to understand, is us trying to meet our own needs. It's our bodies trying to get the right chemicals so that we feel good, so that we can feel safe. And we all have trauma. We all have had shitty things happen to us in our lives. We've all felt insecure. We've all felt lost or alone or fill in the blank. And from those trigger moments of feeling down or exhausted or stressed or afraid, we develop behaviors. We develop these patterns, and these patterns become the vices that we go to every single time. I remember when I started drinking too young, and at first it was just curiosity. It was just actually genuinely wanting to explore and experience something that I hadn't experienced. I think that was actually healthy, because I was, a teenager, young man, starting to figure, wanting to explore who I was and what was life about, and try new things and push my limits. That's healthy. But what happened was, then I started to just get depressed and lost and feel really alone. And I think chemically around that time, I think I was 14, 15, I started to really go downhill and get depressed. And I got in a relationship and I lost my virginity, and I got super depressed, and I was even suicidal, and I was coping with drugs, pills, weed, alcohol every single day. And so that thing that had been there just as like a curiosity suddenly became the vice that I was using to escape my reality. And I had to ultimately replace it with something. I think what I did next wasn't good either. What I did was I replaced, even for a time, I replaced drinking with another codependent relationship. That wasn't healthy either, because it was just like one drug ultimately for another drug. And then I had to replace that. And it was a long journey. And these things don't just happen overnight. We have to work with these things and understand that, like, you having these, it's not something to be ashamed about, but it is your responsibility to change that for yourself. Because if you don't do something about it, you're going to pass it on to your kids someday. It's going to affect the way you show up in a future committed relationship or a marriage. It's going to affect the way that you show up in business. It's going to stunt your growth all around, across the board. So again, there's a trigger, there's a response or a behavior, and then there's a reward. So we always gain something, and that's like we get to feel good. We get to escape something. There's always like a what's in it for me. There's always something that we get out of this behavior. And it's just like training a dog. We are wired the same exact way. What's the reward? So we need to replace the behavior when the trigger happens, when we get stressed, when we've had a long day, when we're afraid and meet our edge. We have to replace that with something, because you can't just take out that bad habit. You have to take the vice and put something else in its place. You know, some people who are quitting smoking cigarettes, they still want to suck on something or put something in their mouths because they're so used to that sensation, right? But I highly recommend, there's so many options for what you can replace things with, but you have to fill your time is what I'm saying. You have to fill your time. You have to take the moments that you'd usually be hanging out with those people or scrolling, and you have to just say, in those moments when I notice I'm about to do that, or I'm about to open up the fridge and eat junk food, I have to be able to catch myself, pause, have the awareness, and I have to replace that with something else. Again, there cannot be a void. So what I recommend for all of these as we go through is think about how this absolutely applies to your life and write these things down. What is your vision? What are you going to claim? Who do you care about? Who are you connected with? And who can you connect with more to make it less about you and more about others? What can you replace? How can you take one thing and turn it into something totally different? Number 4 is discomfort. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be able to sit with the discomfort, because all of these things are great. And at the end of the day, in self-improvement and learning how to heal or transform our lives, there's a point where we can just be running from discomfort. And we have to get out of this, again, this survival program, which is our biological nature. We have to find our way out of that. And we are programmed to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So that means cultivating the capacity, the space in your life, the space inside of you, the strength to be able to just sit with discomfort at times, to be able to sit in your bed or lie down on the floor and be like, wow, I feel all of this coming up and I'm not escaping it anymore. I'm not numbing out, but I'm willing to feel it, be with it, accept it. I'm willing to accept everything in each moment as it arises. There's a lot of space that comes and a lot of power that comes from that space. So yes, replace those vices. Yes, be proactive about it. Don't just be like, well, I'm just gonna, I'm stuck in these vices and I hate this and I have all this negative self-talk and I'm just gonna sit in the discomfort and keep doing it. No, take action and understand that it is a process and that it requires being able to sit with it and not just run. I think in my life, there have been so many points where when I started to flip my life around, I was about 17, 18. I've been through a lot of shit. Like 7 years of being on and off suicidal. And I think a lot of it in the beginning was running from how painful it was, and realizing, wow, people really don't like who I've become. And I was just getting that mirror everywhere in my life. And I didn't have this. I was starting to learn how to replace, and I didn't know how to be with the discomfort. And I think that took me many more years. I think that's a much more refined thing that people don't really talk about. And that's why meditation is so powerful. That's why cultivating presence is so powerful, because you can actually, the more awareness you have, the more powerful you're going to be in your life. And I think that there's some power in building willpower, building discipline, understanding that not everything is going to be comfortable. And if we only do things that are pleasurable, we're not really men. We're just boys living out, playing. And playing is great. That's a part of life, but so too is having discipline. So too is showing up. So too is having a high standard, right? Number 5 of this blueprint, this guide to removing your vices: stories. So where replacing is about changing actions, changing the story is about shifting the way you think and the way that you speak, because our actions, our words, and our thoughts create our reality. So you have to rewrite the stories. The things that you say, you have to, again, awareness, through willingness to be and sit with the discomfort and be curious and see things as they are and understand what's there, instead of numbing out with the coping mechanisms. That also means that you're going to notice a lot of belief systems, a lot of stories that you have in your mind. We have 40,000 plus thoughts every single day. And all these stories are scripts that run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every single day on repeat. And if we don't rewire these, if we don't have awareness and catch them and flip them and reinforce positive thinking about yourself and watching what you say. A simple example of this is that there was a point in time where I said, I don't know if I'm going to live to see, there was a while that I didn't think I was going to live to see my 18th birthday. But then I didn't think I was going to live to see my 28th birthday. And I remember I said that to somebody and they were like, why are you telling yourself that? You're on such an amazing path. I was on a good path, getting on track again at this point. And they're like, why are you holding space for that reality? Why are you reinforcing that? And so I dropped it right there. So you have to look at these things. What are these little negative things that are actually doubt creeping in, fear creeping in, playing small creeping in? All of these things that are trying to keep us safe. Again, understand that it's all a survival mechanism. Being human is recognizing that we are grappling with thousands, even millions of years of how our ancestors learned how to survive, how to cope, how to get by, how to respond or react in the face of stress or life or death moments. We don't live in a reality where there's so many life or death moments anymore. But we still have these pieces of ourselves that are trying to keep us safe. and stories. The thoughts, the words that we speak absolutely have to be rewired. So you need to look at that. Actions, words, and thoughts. Number 6 is you got to celebrate. This is one thing that I think most, if not all, young men, including myself, suck at doing. You have to celebrate the wins. You have to celebrate the little wins, not just the big ones that you're waiting for, hoping that will happen, working so hard to achieve. You have to celebrate that you made your bed this morning. You have to celebrate that you brushed your teeth. You have to celebrate that you cooked yourself a good meal or made yourself a healthy smoothie. You have to celebrate that you went to the gym. Every single little thing, you have to talk to yourself like you are your own father and say, good job. I'm proud of you. You have to look yourself in the mirror, look into your own eyes, and you have to see yourself. You have to speak to that little boy, because even as we become men, you realize that there's actually many parts of you still there inside. And there's both a father inside of me and there's also a son inside of me. So I need to celebrate that and reinforce the positive stories, because just like the people around us shaped us, I'm sure you have both positive and detrimental things that other people said to you that really stuck with you. Some probably are really painful. I know. And probably you also heard some really great things. People who believed in you. And think about how far that took you. And how much that allowed you to step into that version of yourself. We have to offer this to ourselves. Part of becoming men, part of actually utilizing our 20s for the gift that it is learning how to take care of ourselves and also learning how to be self-sourced. You're going to hear me talk a lot about that. Celebrating is one of the ways that we are self-sourced. It's one of the ways that we parent ourselves, father ourselves, and reinforce positivity instead of just criticizing. And if you grew up with any sort of masculine presence that was critical, really any sort of critical presence in your life, it might be extra hard for you to do this. And even if you aren't super critical of others, you might be super critical of others, or you might never be critical of others. But chances are, regardless, you don't celebrate enough. So, smile at yourself. Be proud of yourself. Be proud of who you are. Take those little victories and actually allow yourself to feel them. That's the reward you get when you do show up. You reward yourself. It doesn't always have to be with something external. It can be with presence and pride. Number 7. Number 7 is accountability. This is another thing that so many guys really struggle with. We think we're making progress. We think that we're really ambitiously going after our goals or what we say we want in life, but we're doing it completely by ourselves. You've heard that saying before. We go farther together. And that's the case. We are pack animals. We are wolves in the pack. And we don't operate well alone. There's a reason. Another one of our biological survival mechanisms is fearing exile. It's one of the reasons most of us tried so hard to fit in. Most of us tried so much to belong, to feel loved by others, to look cool. We do not survive in the wild alone. And even if we can survive for a while, we have to understand that we are social beings. We thrive in relationship with one another. It's how humans have created the greatest things. Every achievement that mankind has created has come because more than one mind came together. So when you are operating solo, that can be great for a very short period of time to test yourself. But if you've gone more than a few months like this, your time's up. It's time to get back around people. It's time to surround yourself with people who are holding a high standard. And if you're a man, I highly recommend that you surround yourself with other men too. Because your partner that's great. Your family, that's great. But they're not going to hold you accountable the way somebody else who also has similar visions, similar aspirations will. You will go so much farther if you can find this and cultivate this. Number 8, this connects with number 1 of vision, but number 8 is who. Where I would say vision oftentimes is external, right? It's how much money do you want to make? It's what kind of business do you want to create? It's where do you want to travel to? It's a goal that you have that's external of like where you're looking out somewhere to see something. Who is the internal vision? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And ultimately that's the most important thing because we have no control. We get to play a part in what we create externally, but the external world is not in our control. The only part, it is said, the only part of the universe that I have control over is me. So if I want to see something changed in the world, really, at the end of the day, all I can do is move myself and be an example of that and be a light for others just by being that. This is the internal vision. So it's having a sense of what are the values, what are the qualities, what is the code that I want to live by ultimately? What am I committed to? What are my non-negotiables? What is in my kingdom, my realm, that I'm focused on? That's important to me on an internal level. Because even if everything gets wiped away, sometimes with certain things we can't control what the economy is going to do. We can control how we show up to it. So when everything goes astray, how do you show up? Do you have integrity? Do you have heart? Do you think about others? Do you love and care and show kindness? Are you honorable? Are you a gentleman? What qualities do you want to strive for? You have to think about that and you have to know that. And the reason that is so important is, again, it's like knowing who I am. Then it becomes very clear if something is no longer in alignment with that, such as the vices that keep keeping you stuck. Number 9, mentorship. YouTube's great for that. Check. You did that here right now in this moment, and I so encourage you to go outside of just YouTube, read books, consume anything from somebody that you really respect. And look at people, especially look at people who walk the way you want to walk in the world. Look at people who have the results that you want to have and learn from them. And really question that too. If you see something, I really challenge all of you young men to not just look at celebrities, some of them who have no morals, and think that that's who you want to be. Question that. Challenge that thought. Challenge your own thoughts and beliefs. And find people that long-term have the same visions and values as you and are that much farther ahead. Whatever you can do to soak in what they have, and the power of osmosis, right? That's just like what you get just from being in the same room as somebody, in the same environment, of just seeing the way that they walk and move. That we have something called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons mean that just by looking at somebody, there's cells in my body that are, if I watch somebody, cells in my body are learning how to do what that person is doing just from watching. And then I can practice that and I'm going to be that much better. That's why if you're, for me, this was like freestyle skiing or learning so many different things, learning how to skydive, learning how to even do business, leadership skills from watching others. That is so absolutely how I've been able to cultivate so much, is from, again, surrounding myself with higher level people I wanted to be in 5 or 10 plus years. And being willing to learn, be a student of life, learn from everybody. Everybody has something to teach you. And I think that's very humbling, and it also rewires the idea that we have to be self-made. It rewires the idea that we are supposed to do it by ourselves. You're not going to get far if you try to do that. And you might have witnessed other men in your life do this. And I'm telling you, it's super outdated. It doesn't work. It's not going to allow you to create success with fulfillment. Not a lot of people, not nearly as many people have success with fulfillment. And that means it's sustainable. That means they're actually happy. That means that they have what they want externally, but most importantly, they feel how they want to feel internally. Very few people have that. Lastly, this is what ties it all together. Forgiveness. Forgiveness means forgiving yourself for being human. You're gonna make mistakes. You have to forgive yourself for however long you've been stuck in the same cycle. You have to forgive yourself for the part of you that will slip up and will make mistakes. As long as I am breathing with the heart beating, I will keep making mistakes. That's just about as guaranteed as anything. But what I can do is be kind to myself, forgive myself while holding myself to a high standard. What I can do is take off a bit of that edge and, again, the criticalness, so that I can be more encouraging. And it means that I can, by taking some of that pressure off, I'm creating more space for myself to actually achieve what I want to achieve. I'm accepting that I do have flaws. I'm accepting that I don't know everything already. Most of us are so impatient. So I'm calling you out, calling you forward. If that's you, if you find yourself so impatient with getting certain results and kicking yourself and being down on yourself, forgive yourself for that. Forgive yourself for kicking yourself too. But forgive yourself for not getting where you want to be faster. Most of us have so much time. Decades of life. If you're 20 right now, you could have 80 more years of life to do so much. And we have crazy effed up views of aging. And if you actually prioritize taking care of your health, not just being in the best shape of your life, which is great, but also being in the best health of your life, holistically, you're going to be so powerful at 80 years old. You're going to be able to do so much. People are going to be like retired and dying, and you're going to still have energy and still have youth because you're still learning, you're still growing, you still have time. You're still curious. The adventure's still going. And I've seen guys like this, and it's changed my life, being around them. Guys who are that old and who are still climbing mountains. So forgive yourself and let yourself realize that you have time. And that's not a way to sell yourself short. That's just putting things into perspective. So just focus on getting that 1% better every single day. And take the pressure off to do it all tomorrow. Because that's the instant gratification that's killing our generation. Because we're so used to be getting dopamine hits from scrolling on social media and instantly being able to see something, right? Without putting any effort in, we can look at beautiful girls and naked women and fill in the blank, right? And get all of these chemicals and these hits that are like drugs instantly without any effort. I also saw this because I traveled to China, and they have so many like carts that take you to the top of the mountain, and like standing on the top of a mountain that you didn't climb is one of the least fulfilling things. It's one of the worst feelings. I want to feel the sweat. I want to feel the satisfaction of my heart beating, of that exhaustion of my legs hurting. I want to feel that effort exerted. We need that as men. We thrive on challenge. So, remember that today. These are the 10 pieces. This is the guide. If you follow these things, I guarantee you're not going to recognize your life in just a couple years if you truly apply these things. So, here we are. We're at the end. I want to ask you a couple things. I would love to hear in the comments what you thought of this video. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway was. If you're willing and vulnerable enough to share, really, if you have the courage to share, I'm curious to hear what's your biggest vice, your biggest challenge. Drop it in the comments below. Send me a direct message on Instagram if you have any questions. Maybe I'll be able to answer it in another video similar to this. Point you in the right direction. So I'm here for you, and I want to pass that on to you, whatever I can. So take what you can, leave what doesn't resonate, and may it help you go even further than me. So I'm going to leave it there. Talk to you soon.